Okay, hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Paper 1 commentary. And so the Paper 1 commentary is a guided literary analysis or a literary commentary for the higher levels. And so this is a compulsory examination required for both the standard level and higher level IB English A students. And a lot of students don't really know how to structure your commentary and how to sort of plan your commentary. So today I'm going to give you a bit of tips and tricks as to how to approach this commentary. So prior to starting off, I'd like to explain the criteria for this Paper 1 commentary. And so as you guys know, there are 4 sections to the criterion: Criterion A, Criterion B, C, and D. So Criterion A is the understanding and interpretation. So this means that the examiner looks for how well you interpret the text and how well your understanding is shown through your writing. And so you need to be clear in how you present your ideas, and also the examiner looks for how successfully your ideas are supported by reference to the text. Now I'll move on to Criterion B, which is the writer's choice, and by choices we mean the stylistic and linguistic choices. And so the examiner looks for how well you show an appreciation for the writer's choices. And so you need to be aware of to what extent your ideas show an appreciation of the stylistic choices, such as language, style, tone, technique, structure used by the writer. And now moving on to Criterion C, which is organization. Now, organization is referring to the organization of your commentary. And so they look at how well structured your commentary is, as well as the coherency of your ideas. And so, which means that the flow and the presentation of your ideas need to be very clear and precise. And now moving on to Criterion D. Criterion D is language, and again, this part refers to the language used by your commentary, your writing. And so your language needs to be clear, it needs to be precise, and your register and style, in addition to your use of terminology, also needs to be appropriate to this assignment. And so for the Paper 1 commentary, you're given a choice of 2 different texts, which is namely poetry and prose. And a lot of students actually, when making the decision, they usually like to choose the prose passage, because the prose passage is longer than the poem, and so a lot of them think that the poem doesn't really have much to talk about. But today I'd like to explain a little more about the poem passage and how to approach the poem passage, because actually the poem does actually offer a greater complexity of language, and so it can at most times be a better choice. And so I'll now like to talk about how to plan your commentary. Now I would like to explain to you on how to mark up your text before you start. And so while you brainstorm, it's essential for you to be able to mark your text and make annotation. Just write scribbles on the paper on how you're going to structure your essay. And I really can't stress this enough. This is really, really important. I know a lot of students don't do this, but this is a step you really, really must do in order for you to write a very coherent essay. And when you approach the poem, there are a few important things you need to look at. And so when you read the poem, the first thing you encounter is the poem's title. The title is really important because although it's really short, the poem's title is a key to the reader's message and what the author's message and what the author is trying to convey to the reader. And so make a map of various ideas. Map. It can be words, it can be lines, and also you can look for references to the actual poem. And if you see the connections between those, make a note of that as well. Now, the second thing you need to know is you need to be able to make a basic sense of the poem. So what I would do is just summarize what the poem is talking about. So who is talking? So referring to the narrator. To whom is the narrator talking to? What is the narrator talking about? For what purposes is the narrator talking to this person? And how is the narrator saying this? So delivery, as in the tone, and when you talk about the tone, you can also talk about the general mood of the poem. Now, next you need to be able to also paraphrase ambiguous or problematic lines. So, ambiguity. So, a lot of students, when they look at these ambiguous lines, they immediately think it's something that they shouldn't touch, but actually, this ambiguity offers an opportunity for further exploration, and this is usually where the reader's message essentially lies. So it's really important that you make a note of this and try to analyze this in terms of what the author is trying to say. So the author's ultimate message. Okay, now next, you also need to be able to spot the flows and the tensions of the poem. So what I mean by that is that in a lot of cases, the poem, there is a contrast that occurs in the poem, and so you need to be able to sort of recognize that there is a change in usually the mood and atmosphere in the poem, and so the author can indicate this through the author's use of his or her use of language, their use of different types of perspectives, and there might be a change in the speaker's point of view, and so make a note of those contrasts that occur in the poem, because this also, everything essentially relates back to the author's message. And what you're trying to do when you analyze this poem is you're trying to find out what the author is trying to say, and what you talk about in the commentary is how the author achieves this. And so if you are able to do these four is a basic, so they're the foundation of your commentary, and I'm sure that it's going to help you get a head start when making a proper outline for your commentary.